and you can always watch the recording afterwards. Certainly there have been in the past students who don't want to be recorded, and that's fine. There's no problem with that. All right, so welcome everyone. If you have any burning issues, just pop them into the chat pod, and I'll deal with them as we go through. So as I said, it is recorded. Most of you said you can see and hear me, so that's all good. I'm just going to do a little bit of housekeeping before we start. So just to ask you again, mute your microphones. We'll talk about questions shortly. And to mute that, there's a little bar menu on the bottom there with a microphone and a camera, and you can turn your camera on or off, and just turn your microphone off for the time being. All right. There is a chat pod. I've got it open on a second screen, so I'm going to have keep an eye out on that. If you've got any questions, pop them into the chat pod, or click the reactions button to raise your hand. Or if you've got, I can't see all of you, so it's probably best to just either unmute your microphone or put something in the chat pod, and then I know that you're asking or calling for my attention. So I can't see all of you on the screen at once. So just bear in mind that just so that we keep the meeting flowing, what I'll do is I'll deal with the questions in batches. What I just ask you to do is just keep your questions to the topic that we're talking about. And if I haven't answered your question by the end of the meeting, we'll have an open session for questions and answers right at the very end. So basically, our agenda tonight is I'm just going to give you an overview of the subject. I'm going to show you the learning environment, and we're just going to explore that and have a good look. I'll introduce you to the subject in terms of the content and the structure. I'll set out expectations, what I expect of you, what you should expect from me. We'll talk about time management, which is one of the main issues for distance education students. We'll talk about assessment items, and as I said, we'll have an open questions session at the end. Right. So I'm just going to pause there. Are there any burning issues that you want me to address in addition to what I've just covered? If there are, just pop them into the chat pod, and I'll address them as we go through. Right. So nothing coming through yet, but I'll just keep an eye out on that. So just to let you know, we will be having several meetings, and when are we going to be having meetings and what are they going to be about? You just go to the online Zoom meeting tab, and most of you have obviously been there because you've managed to log in. And we've got a table here that you can see here. I've got a table. It's just a guide. It's not set in stone. Sometimes things go wrong, or I have to travel to Wagga for something and I can't do the meeting out of a hotel room at Wagga, and I might shift it. But this is the plan. We try and stick to the plan as best we can. And so there's not a meeting every week, but certainly there are meetings most weeks. And so what will happen, as you can see here, I will put a link here where you can catch the recording of the online meeting, and any materials that I share with students in the online meeting, I'll put copies of them here. So that's, what's on, when are we going to have the meetings? You can have a look there. But what you can also do is you can also go to the weekly instructions. And if you have a look at the weekly instructions, it'll tell you week by week. I wonder why this is so slow. My internet at home is normally quite quick. All right, so I've asked you before we start, get ready for the first online meeting. But if you click on the next dot, it takes you to week 1, and it tells you, look, we're going to be having a meeting on Wednesday, the 1st of March. And week 2, yeah, looks like we're having another meeting in week 2. So if you're not quite sure, either go to the weekly instructions or go to the online meeting Zoom tab, and that'll tell you what we're going to be doing. Right, so let's just start and go to the welcome page. It looks like most of you have been here. I've had a good look at the site analytics. What I just want to point out is that you won't see the subject management menu here on the bottom left. Only I can see that. Only the teaching staff can see that. But at the end of the day, we have the ability to track students and to track student activity. All right. So so just be careful in sending emails through. You know, I've looked here and I've looked there and I can't find this and this is not working and whatever it is. I can actually see where you've been and how long you spent there, etc. I'll give you a good example. I had a young lady who sent me an email almost towards the end of the semester, and she said, "I've had a look at this material and I don't really understand it. Can you recommend a tutor?" So I thought, okay, I better have a look at this. So I went into the site analytics and she hadn't been on the Interact site for 7 weeks. And the week that she contacted me, she'd been on for 2 hours. So just be careful. Big Brother is watching you. So that we can keep track. Now, what we do is we use that. If we see students are getting behind, if students haven't been active, what we will do is we will contact students and say, listen, anything wrong? You haven't been on for a while, or you haven't started on the Interact site. So it's just, we use that so that we can just make sure that we keep engaged with the students. All right. Right. So the first thing is that on the home page is a little bit of an introduction. There's a little video there which I recorded a year or two ago. It's still valid today. I've also put a little introduction and welcome letter, which kind of explains what I'm going to talk about tonight. And the important thing is each week or on a regular basis, go to the weekly instruction to see what you should be doing and keep up with it. Now, the other thing is that, as with all electronic stuff, things go wrong. Okay, so we've had a classic this week. It looks like there was a lightning strike on the Wagga campus, and all the video setups in all the lecture rooms and tutorial rooms reset themselves. So no one was able to record any lectures. No one was able to deliver lectures properly. The poor IT guys were running around like headless chickens to try and fix it all. So as with all technology, sometimes it fails. So if you see something on the Interact site or on the site, it's not working, or the link's not working, whatever, just let me know as soon as possible. I'll look at it and I'll fix it. So, we do lose links, things go missing in cyberspace. It happens. So that's what this is all about here. So on the front page, what we've done is just for your convenience, we've told you when the assessment items are due. Really important to make a note of those, and I'll talk about those in a whole lot more detail shortly. Then I've just given a little bit of a blurb here. What is important is that you can download Microsoft 365 and you can use it for free for the duration of your studies. And you just click there and follow your notes through the system, and you can download it on your computer. And in actual fact, you can actually use it on 5 devices. So how very kind of Bill Gates to let us use Microsoft Office. I'm sure he's charging us somewhere along the line. So the most important document in this site is the subject outline. Now, the university in all its wisdom has provided us with this format here. I personally don't like it because you've got to click all these little buttons to show what you want to look at. Personally, I prefer the PDF version. So you just click download print PDF version. You click that, and hey presto, a nice, easy to read PDF version pops up. And if you want to go sort of assessment items, you can click on that, and it's linked. So it'll take you to the table of assessment items. So most important thing is the subject outline. Bear in mind, it's the contract between you, the students, and me, the university. And everything in there, well, all the rules and regulations, what you can and can't do, etc., etc. So really, really important that you go through that very thoroughly and take on board what's been said there. No questions yet. All right, so what are we going to do each week? I've already said to you, you can go to the weekly instructions tab, and you can click along this line here, this timeline, and you'll see for each week there are instructions as to what we're going to be doing. So in week 10, there's no modules to study. The internal students are going to go on a field trip. What we do is we film that field trip, and we then get the media guys to edit that, and then we put that edited recording up online for distance students. Now, in your case, what you'll see is last year's field trip visit, because obviously the media guys take a bit of time to do the editing and publishing and all that sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, basically, we go on the same field trip every year. So what we did last year, the year before, and the year before is still valid for current students. Okay, so the weekly instructions is where you can find out what to do. Another place where you can find out what we're going to be doing each week is, again, you can go to the subject outline. Here it is here. And in the subject outline, just make that a bit smaller. There is a schedule in there. All right, so there's a schedule in the subject outline. There's a schedule in the weekly instructions. And what I've also done is I've made another one. I've used Excel to make it nice, brightly colored, an PDF version of what we're doing each week. And it's all color coded. You can't read it here, but what I would encourage you to do is download it, print it off on A3, stick it on your pin board, your cork board, your office wall, and then you can see what you're supposed to be doing each week. So in the left-hand column, the light blue are the topics that we're going to be covering, the modules that we've been covering. The pink, I think that is, or orange. I'm colorblind, red, green, colorblind. That is the interactive tutorial. The yellow ones, I can see yellow, is the academic tutorials that we were doing. So the internals will have those face-to-face. But what we will do is we put up PowerPoint versions of those. But each online meeting will cover some topics. Then there's a little bit of self-study, this pink column, I think it is, and then the last column is your assessment items. So lots of places to see what should I be doing this week. As I'll say to students every year, no excuses and say, oh, I didn't realize it was due this week. Well, it's all over the place. So just make sure that you follow that. The online meeting table I've talked about. So, yeah. Now, the other thing also is that there is a case of, there's been floods, there's been fires, there's been earthquakes, there's been tsunamis, things go wrong, people go to hospital. My wife's going to hospital tomorrow, and sometimes you can't meet those deadlines. Okay, there's a system called special consideration. Now, the way that special consideration works is you actually go to your student portal. Just give me a minute while I do this and go to the student version. See if it works. Yes, it does work. And so you go to support services and you scroll down a little bit, and there you'll see there's special consideration. Now, if you've had some disaster and you're not going to meet the deadline and whatever, the rules of the university are you need to contact your subject coordinator in advance, okay? And things are, I'm going into hospital, I've broken my leg, I've got doctor's appointments, lots of things come up. The important thing is that when you do your special consideration, the first thing is it really should be submitted before the date, not after the date, okay? There are circumstances when things go that wrong that you can only submit it after the date. And of course, we look at it on a case-by-case basis. Now, first of all, it doesn't come to me first. It goes through the system. So there's an administrator who has a look at it to make sure that you've done everything correctly and that it's an acceptable reason for asking for an extension or an alternative assignment, etc., etc. And then once they've done a pre-approval, then it comes to me for approval. So there's a little bit of an explanation about it. And then if you want to apply for special consideration, you click on that link and it then takes you to the page. And what it's going to show is that I'm not enrolled for any subject, so I can't take it any further than this particular page. Why is my internet so slow? Anyway, let's leave that. Take my word for it. You go there, read the instructions, you click, make a new request, and you go through the system. What is really important for your special consideration to go through the system, you have to supply documentary evidence, right? So if you've got a doctor's certificate, or if you've got any other substantiation for missing a deadline, etc., you've got to supply documentation. Now, in some cases, what will happen is that you might send me an email and say, look, this disaster has happened, etc., etc. The documentation then is just to take a screenshot of the email correspondence and then submit that as the documentation, right? Otherwise, the system blocks it from going any further. So you've got to supply some kind of documentation. So if you've got a doctor's certificate, all well and good. If you've got a letter from your boss that you have to go and fly overseas, or you've got your schedule that you're a fly in, fly out worker on an oil rig, and you're not going to be near any internet for the next 2 weeks. You just get a letter from the boss, and then that's your documentation. So that's the critical thing, is that special consideration, the system is such, you put it in, you've got to supply documentation. So just take that on board. All right, still no questions, so I'll just keep going. All right, so each week, as I said, read the weekly instructions. So let's just have a look at what we should do in week 1. So welcome to the first semester. The first thing you should do is go to the academic skills tutorial 1. You should study module 0, and you should start working on your first assignment. All right. And bear in mind that you've got an online meeting, which those of you who are attending have obviously taken that on board. So the first thing you do is you go to the academic skills tuts folder, and you click on there. And what you'll see is that in the instructions, it says study academic skills part 1, getting started. Now, so what we do for the internal students, Karen Davidson, who's our academic skills team member, in actual fact, we're very privileged to have Karen Davidson, because she's actually the head of the academic skills team. So she does the stuff for us in this first year subject. So for the internals, he does it face-to-face, and they record it. But there's a lot of interaction and discussion and comments and questions, and there's a little bit of noise in those recordings. So what Karen has done instead for the distance students, she's created some desktop recordings. Now, what will happen is that in those desktop recordings, she will say, now do this activity, or now this is what we're going to do. And so these are the documents that she's talking about, whether she's doing an activity in that presentation. So there's a presentation here, you can watch and listen to it. And then there's a copy of the PowerPoint that she shares with us. And there's a weekly planner, for example. There is a session planner. I'll show you those tonight. And what you can do is you can download those documents. You can put them on a second screen, or you can print them out, have them in front of you. And that's what you need to do. So our weekly instruction says, first thing that you've got to do is study the academic skills tutorial part 1. All right. And so just to remind students, this is called professional skills in ag and hort. It's more about academic skills than it is about agriculture or horticulture. Okay. So we're going to learn a lot of stuff about referencing. We're going to learn a lot of stuff about grammar and spelling and structuring essays and paragraphs, and how to put figures and tables into assignments, etc. So just be prepared for that. It's about academic skills, and it's not so much about agriculture, but it is embedded in the agricultural context. Still no questions, so I'll just keep going. So the weekly instructions have said to us, first thing you do is you go to the academic skills tutorial. The second thing it says, go and study module 0. So where do we find the modules? I've put them right at the top here. So you click on modules, and we'll click on module 0. And this is module 0. I'm just temporarily going to move this out the way. Over there. Right. Turn that off. All right, so there are two ways that you can work through the modules. Okay, they're broken up into little sections. And what you can do is you can click the little arrows on the right-hand side here, and it'll take you from one section to the next. Another way of looking at it is you can see that there's a little menu here. Now you can have the menu half exposed, or you can have the menu fully exposed, just by clicking these icons. Or again, there are the arrows again on the left-hand side. So you can close that menu down, or you can have it half open, or you can have it fully open, so you can read the whole title and you can see the sections in the module. So let me just close that and move this across. And all right. So in each of the modules, there's a little bit of an introduction. There's a little bit about the module resources. So the sort of thing that you'll see in each and every module is that there will be some module notes, and there will be a PowerPoint, and there will be a recording. Now, some of these recordings are desktop recordings. Some of these are recordings of the internal students' lectures. It just depends from topic to topic. But in all of the modules, you'll find there are module notes, there's a PowerPoint in PDF format, and there is a recording. All right. And then, of course, there is other stuff in each of these modules, and you just work through those step by step. All right. So let me just illustrate another module in a little bit more detail, and we'll go to module 6 because there's quite a lot of stuff in here. And I'll just close that. I'll just move that across so I can see my arrows. So at the beginning of the module, there's a little bit of an introduction. It tells you what to do, how to do it. There's some learning outcomes. And then it goes to the next part where now it's telling us about the module resources. So we've got module notes, we've got the PowerPoint again, and now we've got a recording of the lecture. And this, in actual fact, is a live lecture that was recorded last year, and that was delivered by Jeffrey McCormack. And he's the lecturer in broadacre crops. And what we do in this subject, we utilize many staff. So we've got horticulture staff, which is me. We've got social scientists. We've got broadacre cropping specialists. We've got livestock specialists. We've got viticulture specialists. And so we use a lot of people in the subject. So this has been delivered as a lecture. And these are usually about an hour or less. Now, in addition to that, the internal coordinator of the subject, I'll get to your question shortly. The internal subject coordinator, who's Georgie Love, will have an interactive session with the internal students. Now, these are really voluntary for you as DE students, because these are really the equivalent of what we do in the online meetings. So I've put some notes here, and you can see here it says voluntary viewing interactive tutorial, and I've given an explanation there. Now you can watch these if you want to, or you can just attend the online meetings. You shouldn't really do both. So in the interactive tutorial, what Georgie will do is that she might go over some pertinent points about the topic that Jeff has just talked about, and then she'll relate that to assessment items. Now I do that anyway for you in the online meetings. So you as DE students don't really have to do this, but we've put them up there just for your use if you really want to. Now, the other thing that we do in the subject is, as I said a little bit earlier, we run some field trips. When I was looking at the schedule, we run some field trips and we do field walks. Now, the field walks are on campus and the field trips are off campus. So in this particular instance, this broadacre topic, there is field walk number 2. So there was an earlier field walk in the environmental resources topic. And so what has actually happened here is the media guys have gone along, they've filmed it, they've edited it, and then we've got a nice succinct version of what the field walk was all about. So this is a broadacre one. And what happens there is that the students are taken into the field, various topics are chosen, experts talk about those topics, but obviously they're related to agronomy or broadacre. All right, so that's a field walk on campus. Then in addition, for a whole day, the internal students go on a field trip. So they start at 7 o'clock in the morning and they get back at 7 o'clock at night. And the media guys go along with them and they film it all, and then they come back and they edit it and they produce these nice succinct videos for us with the pertinent points. So what they do in this particular field walk, they go and look at cotton and they go and look at rice. And so these are like two industries that are broadacre industries where the students have gone out and they've experienced those industries in the field. And so, for example, the horticulture ones, they go to an apple pack house. So we've got filming of what's in the apple pack house, also in the orchard, in the juicing factory, and the viticulture wine guys. The students go and visit a vineyard and a winery, and we've got recordings of those, and those are in the viticulture and the horticulture modules. So not all modules have got field walks, and not all modules have got field visits, only some of them, right? So don't expect to see field walks and field trips in all of them. How am I doing for time? All right, so that's what you will find in the module underneath the module resources. Then if you go, so if I can just explain here, these module notes are basically the same information as you'll find when you get into the module. So all of these notes here, any videos, any readings, etc., they are all in those module notes. So in other words, that is a PDF version of the module. So some students prefer to look and listen. Other students prefer to have it all written out for them. So what we're doing is we're catering for both students. You don't necessarily need to do both. Okay, but if it helps you in your studying, then by all means do both. All right, so let's just keep going. Let me just choose a different module. Let's just have a look at, right, let's go to environmental resources. Now, towards the end of the module, what you'll find is that we've also provided you with some revision activities. So let's just move that across. And we've created these exercises for you. So, you know, there'll be some multiple choice questions, or fill in the missing words, or drop and drag, just to test, you know, test your knowledge. And further on from those, what we've also put together, there's in this module, there's 2 of those activities. Then we've provided you some sample review questions, just to sort of see if you can test your own knowledge. And then what we've done is we've provided some, not so much model answers, but guidelines for answers and where you might find the answers to those questions. Look at slide this, look at slide that. Further down here, we've drawn some diagrams and given some explanation. And so this is, we feel that this is a good way to learn. So it's not just a case of you listening and watching or reading, but then you can actually get active and try these things out yourself. And then you can check what you've done against the answers. All right, so Jesse has asked, what are the colored gauges next to the resource links? Okay, just remind me where that was, Jesse. Jesse still there? Maybe come on to unmute your microphone and just explain what you're talking about, where the colored gauges next to the resource links are. Jesse there? Let's have a look.
I believe it was in the modules.
In the modules, right? So I'm in a module here. When you see them, just tell me.
Yeah, go up a bit next to the link. I think that was what it was. No, down.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. I couldn't think of the word though.
Okay.
So the little
So
green gauge
about these little
underneath
things
topic 4. Now, if you go down to topic 4, see how next to the hyperlink, the blue hyperlink, the gauge, yeah.
Yeah. It just tells me how many people have looked at it.
Right. So it has no relevance to us whatsoever. Cool.
Yeah. I don't know what's there. Just anyway, yeah, that's a fairly new thing, that they've got all these little icons and bits and bobs in there. Just ignore them. At the end of the day, it's showing you that you can download stuff, and it's showing me, if students have actually gone there. All right. All right. So it was early in the modules where the topics are. Okay, let's get cracking. All right. So now in the weekly instructions, it says, let's go back to week 1. Just move us across there, and let's close that and go to week 1. And you can see here it says there is an assignment due, and it's due on Monday. All right. And it says what you need to do is you need to go and look at the instructions in the subject outline, and you also need to go to the assessment item 1 tab. So in this case here, we go to the subject outline, and we go and look for assessment item 1. And here are some basic instructions: when it's due, when you're going to get your results back, how long it is. Well, in this case here, it's an online test, so it is no writing length or word limit. How you submit it, it's an online test. Here's the task: you've got to do the BKSB test. What's the rationale? There's a little bit of an explanation. That's a marking rubric. All of the assignments have got a marking rubric, and you can see here it says it's an online test. What you'll need in front of you, blah blah blah, etc., etc. The second one is academic writing. And so what you need to do, the first thing that you need to do is go to the subject outline and read the instructions there. Then the next thing you need to do is you need to go to, as it says here, assessment item 1 tab. So you click on this, and what we've done here, just for your convenience, is we pick the eyes out of what is in the subject outline. So you can see here what I've said here, basic information from the subject outline. So it's telling you what is the value. It's either satisfactory or unsatisfactory. When is it due? It's due by midnight on Monday nights, and that's the 6th of March. What is the task? What is the rationale? And that's all there. There's the little marking rubric. It's a very simple one. You either get it right or you don't, and you then just have to keep going if you don't. So here now is a good explanation, a full explanation as to what it's all about. And what you can see here is that you've got to go to the BKSB site. Further down, it gives you the link where to go to. You go there, read all the instructions. And what I've done here is right at the very bottom, I've given you some screenshots of what it'll look like when you get there, with an explanation of what to do, where to go, and to follow those instructions. So what you'll need to do is you need to work through that. And you'll do the initial test, or the initial assessment, as it's officially called. And it'll then give you a score. And it'll tell you either it's exit level this or it's working level that. And the problem is with the BKSB is that sometimes they refer to working level, sometimes they refer to exit level. That's why we've given you those 2 terms. It's just a bit of a fault with the system. And let me just check how my time is going. Yeah, I'm running a bit late. It's just a fault with the system. So what you've got to do is look for, does it give you exit level 3 or does it give you working level 4 or above? And if you get level 3 and above, exit level, and you get working level 4 and above, you really don't have to, you've done and dusted. What that's telling us is that you're at that sort of standard where you'll cope with the subject. Now, if you don't get that, it's either you haven't put enough effort into it, or there are problems and that you need to up your reading and writing skills. And so what will happen is that it'll give you a diagnostic, and it'll then create a whole lot of tailored modules for you. And then you need to work through those modules. And then once you've done that, it'll then let you take the initial assessment again. And then if you get to the right level, then you're done and dusted. You don't have to do it again. However, for some students, they might get to level 3 and they feel, no, I want to get to level 4. I want to get to level 5. In that case, there, get the diagnostics done, work through the modules, try it again until you get to a higher level. We're only looking for exit level 3, working level 4. And once you've got that, you get a satisfactory grade. If you don't get that by the set date, which is the return date, let's have a look here. I haven't got it in here, but it's in the subject outline. If you haven't got it by then, what we'll do is we'll contact you and say, look, listen, you're not really performing at the right level, and we will let you know that it's probably a good idea to disenroll from the subject, and maybe then go and take on some pre-uni courses, which we offer. Get your skills up to speed before you then enroll in the subject. So that's basically how it works. Now, if you have any problems, what you've got to do, so here it's saying, how do I access BKSP? You click the link, it'll take you there. Your username is your student number, and you type in the word password, then it'll tell you to change it, and you then create your own password. Don't use your same password that you use for CSU. This is not a CSU platform. It's a platform outside CSU. So don't use your same password that you're using at CSU. All right. When should you complete it? So you've got to complete it by midnight on Monday. And I didn't get exit level 3, as I just explained. Well, this is what's going to happen now. All right. So that's the first assignment. And all the assignment folders are structured in the same way. There's a little bit of basic information, and then there's a little bit more detail. All right. So, any more questions about the structure and the setup? Do we need to complete the maths? No, absolutely not. You only have to do the English one. All right. So Lee has said, I'll take some you offline.
It's a long question, but it's probably the one.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah. Look, at the end of the day, RPL, that's sort of, they cut you off at 10 years. So
yeah.
You buggered.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I sort of gathered that.
Start again. Yeah. It happens to all of us. It happens to all of us in life. Eh?
True.
Yeah. Right. So Digby has said, do you only need to do the initial assessment? Yes. And then as long as you get exit level 3, working level 4, then you don't have to do anything else. Okay. But if you don't get exit level 3, working level 4, then you go and do the diagnostic, then you do the modules, and then you try again. All right. Yes. If your test is unsatisfactory, you can try and try and try again. You just keep going. All right. And so you can try as many times as you really need to. All right. So, all right. So very quickly, welcome to CSU. Welcome to AHT101. You've made a good choice. You'll get lots of support, especially this is a first year subject, first semester subject. You get a lot of support from me and my colleagues. No, there's not a time limit to the test. What is quite interesting is that CSU is actually very well recognized as very good at online teaching. I went to an international conference in Port Macquarie on the CSU campus there. We had international people there, and they were flabbergasted at how well we do distance education. So they learned a lot from us, although we also learned a lot from them. So the other thing also about CSU is that CSU actually has the highest employment rate of any university in Australia. Right? It also has the highest starting salary of all university graduates in Australia. Okay. Now, bear in mind that other universities have lots of dentists and doctors and engineers and all that sort of stuff. We've only just started engineering. We've only just started medicine and dentistry. And so CSU graduates actually have the highest starting salary of all graduates in Australia. So, right. So, you know, well, excuse me. I talk too much. You know, well done on getting in. What it's going to do, it's going to improve your employment. It's going to improve your enjoyment of your employment. It's going to give you a whole lot more job opportunities once you graduate. It's a challenging world out there. You know, you'll have better skills. You'll have a better understanding of doing the job that you do at the moment. You can make a better contribution to the workforce. You can make a better contribution to the economy. But the critical thing is that what most employers look for is GPA. So they look at two students and they say, okay, well, this guy's got this degree and this guy's got that degree, right? When I say guys, I mean guys and girls as well. I just use the term generally, all right? And what they will do is they'll make comparisons and they will look at your GPA, your grade point average. Okay, so at the end of the day, don't aim for a pass, aim higher than that, right? Because at the end of the day, that makes you a whole lot more employable once you graduate. So work to achieve, all right? So the other thing also about graduating in agriculture is that there are lots of job opportunities out there. The research has been done. There are at least 5 jobs out there per agricultural graduate. In other words, and you know, the research has been done. There are about 800 graduates in agriculture every year from Australian universities, all universities, not just CSU. And there are over 3,500 jobs available, right? So they're filling them with either unqualified or underqualified people. So, and for the hort students, even more. So, of course, I'm a horticulturalist, so we are sitting pretty in terms of horticulture. You know, I use my own kids as good examples. You know, my son did a double degree in engineering, and then he went and did postgraduate medicine, and now he's a doctor. And my daughter's did a double degree in business. Now she's a chartered accountant. Of course, she's left and gone to live in London, and you know, living the high life in London. And I can tell you right now, those opportunities, excuse me, would never have come to them if I'd stayed where we were. So, you know, at the end of the day, you're very privileged, you know, to be in Australia. Now, the one thing about that is that what I do with some students is that I take study tours, international study tours. I've been to Argentina, I've taken them to South Africa. I'm not a South African, by the way, even though I might sound like one. I've taken the students overseas many times. And you know, one particular example was the one that I took to South Africa. We had 30 students, okay? 27 of the students were females, okay? That's amazing. Now, we got to the University of Free State where they were having a braaivleis, okay? We call it a barbecue here, they call it a braaivleis. And of course, we were having this midday braaivleis with the University of Free State students were there, and our students were talking to them and whatever it is, and I was just listening into, you know, the conversations that were going on there. And so the University of Free State students said to our students, you know, our students said to them, you know, now that we've come here to visit you, you guys need to come to Australia and we'll entertain you in Australia. And these guys just turned around and said, well, we could never, ever, ever afford to do that. Okay. And bear in mind that most of our students are either full-time students or part-time students. They're on Centrelink or StudyLink or whatever it's actually called these days. And the other thing is that CSU actually subsidizes the students to go on those tours. So I would encourage you to do those tours because they're actually good fun. And you do work hard. It's not just a joyride. You have to do assignments and all that sort of stuff associated with it. But I really would encourage you to take those up. All right. So just very quickly, I'm your lecturer. I'm also your mentor. You need to talk to me. You need to ask questions. If you're struggling and you don't want to put anything up on the discussion forum, that's fine. Call me, email me privately, and I'll deal with it. Okay. Too many students don't talk to their lecturers. And I'll give you a good example. My daughter, she went to the University of Macquarie. You know, that was a bad idea going there. She should have gone elsewhere. But that's another story. And one day there was a whole lot of snot and tears about she couldn't do this and whatever. And she phoned home and cried down the phone talking to mum and dad. And I said to her, well, why don't you just go and talk to your lecturer? And she turned around and said, I can't do that. Okay. And I can tell you right now at CSU, you must do that. Okay. That's what I'm paid for. All right. So, you know, don't feel shy, you know, about contacting me. Excuse me. About contacting me. I'm here basically to help you. I shouldn't have had my meal before I started. All right. So, but at the same time, if you ask questions, put them into the discussion forum. If you know the answer to the question, by all means, answer the question. And that then creates a sort of collegiality within our group. So we need you to talk to each other, and so do that. But if it's something not for others' eyes, not for others' ears, by all means, call me, email me. Now, if you're not satisfied with, with me or with something else, there are other avenues. So you can talk to Student Central, or you can talk to your courses director. So if you have a look down here, there's academic contacts, and you can see Student Central. Anything administration, talk to Student Central. Talk to me if it's about the subject. If you're having troubles with me, the subject, they're not getting resolved, go to the course director. Or if you want to change subjects or you want to swap subjects, you talk to your course director. And so those are all there. Now, all right, so I'm just going to skip through some of these things. All right, so something that I just do want to do, I'll just show you this very quickly. So this is what I call the tree exercise. It's a little diagram with little figures in the tree. What I want you to do is download this, print it, have a look at the characters in, under, and on the tree. Okay, put a circle around it, put the date next to it. Go back in 3 weeks, find the character that matches your current mood, feelings, about studying, and circle it, put a date to it. Okay, and if you're moving around the tree, that's a good sign. If you're still at the bottom of the tree down here, then maybe that's not a good sign, and then you really need to talk to me. So just do this little exercise for me, and print it out, pin it up on your notice board, circle where you think you're at, okay, and put a date next to it, and then follow that through. Right. The other thing is about professional correspondence. Now, what this subject is called professional skills in Ag and Hort. And so what we're doing is we're embarking now on our professional careers, and we need to learn to behave and communicate professionally. All right. What you don't want to do is do this sort of stuff. Okay. This is a real example of an email that was sent from a student to one of my colleagues. Now, on God's earth, does this child ever think she's going to get a job with that kind of email address? Okay. No subject. How do you address the lecturer? Yo, okay, can't fix this problem. The rest of the message, no idea what to do, help, no punctuation, no capital letters, no full stops, okay, and then no sign off. Don't know who the student is. All right. So what you really need to do is that if you're communicating with us, first of all, most of us teach more than one subject. In some years, I actually teach up to 8 subjects. So it's really good that when you write an email to us, put the code for the subject in the subject box, and then tell us what it's about. So in this case here, AHT101, request for extension. Address whoever you're addressing professionally. Now, dear Peter, or hi Peter, or just Peter is fine with me. I prefer to be called Peter. Then write your message, use good punctuation, use good sentence structure, make it nice and clear. If you've got something, take screenshots and embed them in your email so that we can have a good look. Sign off professionally. You still on course director? So let me share. I beg your pardon. Okay, sorry. Okay, so here we go. There's how not to send an email. All right. This is how to send an email. So put it in the subject box, the subject, what it's about, address us properly, write it all, sign off properly, and then sign off. Now, if you have a nickname, Nick, for example, okay, at least still put your full name underneath. So it might be Nicola, it might be Nicholas, it might be Nicolaides. It just makes it a whole lot easier if it's something that we have to look you up in the system. If we've got your full name that you're enrolled in and your student number, it's just so much easier for us to follow through and follow up for you. All right, so that's all good. All right, so let's so the next thing is just to talk about workloads. Let's have a look. So question is that students often ask, well, look, these are our assessment items. How many hours should I be spending doing the assignment? So this is just a guide. It will go up in the online meeting tab. So the first one, if it takes you 2 hours, that's a lot, I think. But we've been lenient and said, it might take you to 2 to 4 hours, especially if you don't get to the level that you want to, and then you're going to have to do the modules, etc. So academic writing, 3 or 4 hours. The library quiz, you've got to do the tutorial first and then do the quiz. Then we start to get into the big stuff, and so an annotated bibliography, and then the big assignment, which is right at the very end there, and it could take you 20 to 25 hours. So it's going to take you a whole week to write that assignment, and if you're working part-time or even full-time, it's going to take you longer. So plan ahead, right? And so in terms of planning ahead, let me just minimize that. Let me share. Here it is here. Share that. So what I would encourage you to do is just to do this little exercise. Okay, this is a little Excel exercise. Now, I showed you earlier that there was a little table of the assessment items, they're numbered, the titles, how much they're worth, when they're due. Now, this is an exercise I did a couple of years ago. Assessment items have changed, and obviously these are old dates. But the whole point of the exercise is that try and do this. So go to all the subjects that you're doing, go to all the subject outlines, and copy and paste that little table into an Excel file. Excuse me. So what I've now done is I've got rid of all the noise, and now I've just got all the assignments, how much are they valued, and the dates that they are due. Then what I've gone and done is I've gone and put some nice colors there. I like colors, and you can see I've chosen a different color for each subject. And then the last thing that I've done here is I've now ordered them in order of date. Now, the way to do that is you highlight the whole table, then you go to data, and then you go to sort. Yeah, it's resource attached in the online meeting tab. I've put it in there already. Thanks, Jesse. And so at the end of the day, the critical thing here. Oh my God, what happened there? Here it is. Can you still see the Excel file? Just give me a thumbs up if you can. Yeah, all right, thank you. All right, so these are all the dates, and what I want you to have a look down here is that in the last week or 10 days of the semester, more than half your marks are due. All right, so if you leave everything to the last minute, you're up the creek without a paddle. Okay, you really are in trouble. So what we advise you to do is start working now through all your assignments. Keep ahead of the schedule. Make sure that your assignments are ready well before those due dates, because you're going to get really stuck. So this is an example of a student doing the BAVM doing 4 subjects. Okay, most of you are not doing 4 subjects, so it doesn't look this bad. But at the end of the day, if you do this exercise, I promise you, you will find that in the last week to 10 days, more than half your marks are due in that last week to 10 days. And if you don't plan for that, you're in trouble. All right, so what am I going to share now? I'm going to share this one. All right, so at the end of the day, what we're going to give you the session planner, and this is just an arbitrary session planner. You put in your subject name. You can create this yourself in an Excel file. And then what we've got here, a fictitious student, put in the subjects, and then in this case here, what we're showing you is that plan ahead for your assignment. So give yourself 3 weeks to work on the assignment before the due date. Now, the other reason for doing that is that we have a system which is called Studiosity, where we have academic skills advisors. Now, what you can do is you can write your assignment. For those written assignments, you can't do it for the online tests. But for your written assignments, you can write the assignment. What you can do is you can send it to Studiosity, and we have people all over the world that will look at your assignment and give you some feedback. Now, they won't give you feedback on content because They won't be agriculturalists, but what they will be is people who understand university and academic writing. And they will give you feedback. Well, your introduction needs this, your paragraphs need to be structured like this, your referencing needs a little bit of work and whatever. They'll give you some advice on what to do and what to work on. So it's called Studiosity, and there's a link on the Interact site for you to be able to do that. The other thing is that you could do a weekly planner. You know, you might sort of say, gee, I get up at 7, I have breakfast, I take the kids, drop them off at school, get to work by 8, certainly not in Sydney, but you might do that in Orange. And then, you know, you work all day, and then you come home, and then you've got to pick up the kids from school, and you've got to feed them, and you've got to help them with homework and whatever. And then you find maybe at 9 o'clock, you've got half an hour. Set aside that half an hour every evening and put together this plan and put it up on your wall. So, and follow the plan. The thing is to stick to the plan. All right. I've talked about workloads. So let me just close that. Close all tabs. What am I going to share now? Okay. I'm going to go back to yeah, we're in the right place now. Okay, just confirm you can see the Interact site. Give me a thumbs up. Yeah, cool. All right, thank you. All right, so I'm just going to finish off very quickly. I've only got 2 minutes. I think I've done most of it. Yeah, so what are your expectations from me? This is the first year, first semester subject. You get a lot of guidance, help, and support from me. In later subjects, you won't. All right, you'll be sort of left on your own. We have regular online meetings, normally every week. When you get to senior subjects, some of them don't even have online meetings, or maybe they'll have 2 or 3. Right. I check the forums several times a day, so I will go into the discussion forum, and I will go in there, and I can see that 6 people have quickly introduced themselves this evening before the meeting, or they've done it during the meeting. Because I checked this about 2 minutes before we started the meeting. So I check the forums 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times a day, just depending on how busy I am. Certainly first thing in the morning, certainly last thing in the afternoon. And if the rugby is boring, I might check them while I'm watching rugby. So checking my emails constantly. The other thing also is that, you know, I might be old and decrepit, but I do know how to use a mobile phone. And I've set up my emails so that I can see my messages on my emails. Just one thing about old people and iPhones: eyesight is poor, fingers are fat, and so you might get a very cryptic, short, succinct message from me that comes from my phone. I'm not being rude. It's just that, you know, it's a little bit difficult for us old guys to use the phone with these tiny little stupid keyboards. And you'll get a succinct message. I might answer your question, or I might say to you, look, I'll have a look and I'll get back to you on the email. So those are the expectations from me. So understand, when you get those succinct things from me, I'm not being rude. I'm just trying to be efficient. And also I just have difficulty finding the keys on the keyboard. So just one thing about passing the subject. Now, you've got to do all assignments to pass the subject. Okay, if you miss one assignment, you don't do the assignment, you will fail the subject. You have to do all assignments to pass the subject. Now, you don't have to get more than 50% for those written assignments where you get a percentage, okay? You can fail an assignment and you can still pass the subject if your overall mark is 50%. However, that doesn't count for the 2 online tests. So the BKSP, you have to get exit level 3, working level 4 to get a satisfactory grade. For the library tutorial, you have to get 10 out of 10. Now, for the library quiz, for the library quiz, you can just do that time and time and time again until you get to 10. Right. Once you've got 10, then you can leave it, and then you can get your satisfactory grade. But your overall mark needs to be 50% and above, and that's how you pass the subject. But you have to do every assignment to be able to pass the subject. You miss one assignment, you will fail the subject. Right. Those are the rules, and those are the expectations. All right. I think that's really all I have to say. Are there any final questions? Let's see. There's two new questions in the chat. Yeah. All right. So, yeah. And I am okay with the technology. It's just my eyesight that's the problem. Anyway, all right, guys. We've reached 8 o'clock. It's beer o'clock. I see Lee has already found wine o'clock. So I will let me just stop sharing so that I can see all of your faces. There we go. Oh, good. So 42 students. Wow, that's good. That's really good to have 42 students. Right, where's my chat gone now? Chat. Oh my goodness, there it is. Right, Alexander. It's only 18:30 there. All right, so 18:30. So where might you be? You might be in Adelaide. Is that right? Or you in the Northern Territory, Alexander?
Yeah, up in Darwin, mate.
Oh, okay. All right.
No, yeah.
A long way away in many respects.
Nah, God's country up here.
Yeah, it's a little cooler in Orange, I can tell you. All right, so look, I'm based in Orange, although your subject is taught to you out of Wagga officially, but I'm actually based in Orange. If you're in Orange or near Orange, I have an office on the Orange campus. If you want to come and chat to me, I have an open door policy. I have an open door policy on the emails, on the discussion forum. I will check messages on the weekend. I will check messages on the evening. That's just the way I work. I don't sleep. It's just the way I work. But sometimes I do get caught in meetings and board meetings, etc. So, but do expect an answer same day. All right, you should, except of course, if it's at midnight, you might get it the following day. But I will answer the questions as soon as possible, as quickly as I can. And we basically, in the summit, we pride ourselves in making sure that we engage with students. At the end of the day, it's also up to you to engage with us and to engage with each other. All right, guys, it's time for me to go. It's time for you to get the next glass, and whether it's juice or a cup of tea or a good glass of wine or a beer, that's up to you. All right, guys. If there are any questions, you've thought of something after the meeting, you know where to go. Go to the discussion forum, put your questions in there, and you should be good to go. All right, guys, I'll stop the meeting there. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Pete.
Cheers.